I'm Tom Weitzel, the police chief here in Riverside. I've actually been chief since 2008, but I've been a police officer for 29 years. This is my 29th year. You know, there really is no real downside in a community like Riverside. You know, you have to make sure that you balance the perception that our employees are the cops television program. Well, that doesn't happen in Riverside. Rarely does that happen. So they have to be community-oriented type of officers that want to solve problems, and they have to be able to do everything from handle a barking dog to felony crime in progress. And sometimes the newer officers come on where all they want to do is the felony crime in progress. Well, this community is not that. This is a community where our residents are very engaged. They're not shy to call me or email me with their opinions on how the police should operate and what their goals should be, which I'm thankful for. And a classic example of that is there isn't a week that goes by that I don't get a phone call or email from a resident on a traffic or parking concern. And in some municipalities that would be a low priority, but in Riverside, this, you know, cut through traffic, speeding autos, and the way these streets are designed and cars are able to park, it's a big deal. So I have to instill into my officers that, hey, traffic enforcement is a real priority with our residents.
My name's William Gutchick. I'm operations lieutenant. I'm in charge of basically everything within the department, make sure it runs and functions properly. So, love putting a smile on people's faces no matter what. You know, another quick story, we had a girl, this is a long time ago, I felt so bad for her. She was going to college downtown, I think Circle or whatever, but she moved to Riverside. She was from St. Louis, moved to Riverside, and she was taking the train to go to school. And she hadn't been here a week, and somebody kicked in the door to her apartment and burglarized her. And she was so upset, and I felt so bad for her. Here, you know, coming to a strange city to go to school away from home the first time, and I was trying to process the crime scene, looking for fingerprints in that. And never, you know, I said, "What's been moved?" And she pointed to me. She goes, "Well, that's where my VCR was, and it's gone now." And I could see 4 little feet marks in the dust. You know, I said, "Well, the fingerprints are on the VCR." I said, I need something to know what the bad guy touched. I said, "What's been moved?" And it was around Halloween, and she pointed to a little glass pumpkin. It was a candy dish. And she goes, "Well, that was sitting on my CD rack. That's gone, and now the pumpkin's over here." So I processed that pumpkin. I lifted one fingerprint from it, and we got a match on it. And we ended up sentencing that guy to 7 years in prison off that one fingerprint.
I don't seek out to arrest people. That's not my motive, but if it comes to it, if I develop the case, if I develop the leads and put the case together, that's certainly what I'm going to do. I'm Detective Sergeant Frank Lara. I'm in charge of investigations right now. Basically, my responsibilities are to follow up on the cases. In other words, trying to develop some leads, trying to develop some, put the physical evidence together, and basically put the evidence together for a court case. You know, putting all the evidence together and getting some video possibly. I may have to go out and get some video if there was video from a crime, or try and get the bad guy. One of my jobs is, I've been doing this for a year and a half, I'm trying to teach the guys to get as much information as they can and to try and tell a story. When you type out your narrative, tell a story. So it flows very nicely from the beginning, when you got the call, to where you're at that point. So if you tell a story, it's easy for the person who reads the narrative or reads the case to understand what's going on. And the judges appreciate that too. If you tell a story to the judge, it's much more easier for them to understand it.
I know there's fingerprints on her, and as you can see, you really can't see them, but you know, we process crime scenes different ways, and this is one of the things we usually do is we super glue things, and then we'll hit it with different chemicals or powders. In this case here, I'm going to use a chemical. This chemical that I'm going to use is called Ardrox. Just going to squirt it on the areas where I know the fingerprint's at, and it's really pretty much about it. And we're going to take a look at this. First rinse it off. And I know we're not going to see much immediately after this. But I can assure you that chemical did its job. You take a look at it, and it still pretty much looks the same. Okay, and we're gonna hit it with a different light source. Okay, and if you want to turn off the lights right behind you, and we'll hit it with a different light source. And if you notice right away, using this light source, you can't see a whole lot just yet. So we're gonna keep changing light sources. And then this one here, still not much, but it's now when we start moving into these here, you're gonna hopefully maybe see a little bit more. And if you notice here, all of a sudden on this one here, our fingerprints really, so I mean, you can see a normal light source, you don't see these fingerprints. Even after hitting a chemical, you don't see the fingerprints, but when we sit there and use a certain nanometer light along with the chemical, the fingerprints, they pop out. But I'd have to tell the Illinois State Police Crime Lab what I used on this and what nanometer light to use. Because if I just send it to them, they're gonna look at it and go, there's nothing there. But if I send it to them and sit there and told them I processed it with Ardrox and I used a 530 nanometer light on it, they're going to use the same process there, and they're going to pick up the print right away, and they'll be able to photograph it really well, and then they'll be able to run it through the system and find out who it belongs to. In this case, it would come back to me. The best thing I think anybody could do is support the police department. Just this past Easter holiday, it was a Sunday, and I left my home and I was driving down Interstate 55. And as I'm coming down Interstate 55, I didn't get too far, and there was a trooper parked in the middle of the road. I probably didn't get another mile and a half, and there's another trooper sitting on the road. Okay, so traffic's slowing down. We got a little further down, we got about the Cass, and there's another trooper there. And when I got to First Avenue where I was going to exit, there was another trooper off to the side. I thought, wow, the police are really out in force today. And then when I got as far down as by Riverside Brookfield High School, one of our own units was sitting on the side of the road. And I thought, well, that's nice to see on a holiday here that all of these police officers are out in force, making the road safe. That's a good thing. What most people don't think of, though, is all of these officers are out there, but it's a holiday. They're not with their family. You know, each one of them officers has a family, be it however, you know, they might have children or whatever. The little ones, he's not there to see the little Easter baskets opened up, or she might not be there to see her little girl get out of bed and try to find the little eggs around the house or things like that. And that's where, you know, I did that for many years, and the biggest stress in this job comes with your family. Most people think the stress in this job comes with what we have to deal with on the road. We're trained to deal with that. And it's nice to know that because of this added stress that's involved in the job, that the community supports you, that the community realizes that, hey, these guys are out there, these guys and girls and the men and women, the dispatchers, everybody who's all involved, that they're all out there making that sacrifice. And that it's nice to know that we got the community's support behind us, that the community sits there and says, hey, we're all for these guys. They're the ones that are making us safe. They're the ones that when I sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning, I know that they're out there doing something.